You're listening to Planet Vero Radio. We are broadcast on iHeart, and we are also podcast on Spreaker. I am Cindy Schwartz, and this is the Patient Partners Show. And I have, as usual, my co-host Jeannie Roller. She's on Skype with me from Indiana, and I have today's guest, who is John A. He's on a phone call from the St. Paul, Minneapolis area in Minnesota. And John, how are you doing?
I'm doing good today. Thank you.
All right, good. You sound good. Jeannie, you're okay? You with me?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so we're going to get right to it. We're going to talk to John. John's scenario is, again, one of these things where the informed consent wasn't informed necessarily, and it wasn't consent. And so we've talked about that how many times, Jeannie Roller? And we've also talked about how many drugs do we really need for these surgeries, these operations? Why isn't anyone telling us any of this stuff? Because if we would have known even a tenth of it, we would have made our mind up differently. So, John, let's get right into your story, and then we'll ask a couple of questions.
Okay. Well, I had 2 or 3 bad luck incidents that caused me to be a little bit wary. So when I went into my first ever surgery on 9/11/2018, kind of a weird date, I expected a lot, but I really didn't know what to expect.
Okay.
They gave me no informed consent at the hospital. The doctors had told me everything would be fine. It was all routine. The only thing I was really afraid of was anesthesia. I was scared to death of that because it almost killed my mother about 20 years earlier. And I had been avoiding Versed, midazolam, ever since then, because I was told by her doctor that mixed with opiates had caused her cardiac crash, and they almost lost her. Mm-hmm. So I went in there and I told the anesthesiologist, I said, look, no Versed, no sedatives. And he said, oh, that's fine. We won't need those with you. We got enough stuff to relax your muscles and stuff, so you'll be fine. And he put that in his notes. What I didn't know was that he didn't enter those notes. And so he never relayed that information to the nurse anesthetist. And I didn't even know that the nurse anesthetist was going to handle the whole thing. Anyway, I was laying there. I walked in. They stripped me down to nothing. The guy rolled, he laid me down, strapped me to the table, and there's 3 female nurses in there. And then he rolled up my gown, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm naked in front of 3 strangers. I was feeling really vulnerable.
Mm-hmm. So let me just stop you for a second. None of this was told to you, and you did tell them up front about these drugs, and that wasn't properly put into your records.
Absolutely,
wow.
Absolutely. And it was never entered in the record. In fact, I found out that the anesthesiologist entered it about 4 minutes after I was totally out and my heart was stable again. So he found out from the nurse anesthetist, who I told after the nurse anesthetist told me, he says, I'm going to give you something to relax. I said, no, Versed. I said, I refused Versed. And he says, oh, the doctor never told me about that. And he started yelling at me. Mm-hmm. Okay, this time I'm feeling really vulnerable.
Right.
And I don't know, I always considered myself mentally strong, but I just freaked out. Mm-hmm. I couldn't talk. I couldn't move. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I would have got up and left.
Right.
I just laid there, and then he says, I finally got the courage to say something, and I said, I want to talk to the anesthesiologist right now. And he says, well, he's not here, and he won't be here for a while. And he got really quiet, and I thought, this guy's going to kill me to cover up his error. Mm-hmm. And that's ultimately what caused the PTSD.
Right.
So still suffering today.
Right. So that's what we talk about. Jeannie Roller, your thoughts on all of this? How many of these stories have we heard, have we been through?
So many, including my own husband.
Right.
Oh.
And so we hear it over and over again. So now John is suffering from PTSD, which, how many times has that been recognized? Like, I want to say scoreboard none, because they say we don't do this to you.
Yeah, and they kept telling me, they kept saying, well, we're sorry that the medication error happened, but we're not responsible for that because you waited before you told him that you had refused it. I said, no. And they pulled out all the stops, and they sicked their legal team on me. Mm-hmm. They wouldn't give me my records. I tried to get my records through the Minnesota Attorney General's office for 7 months, and they were stonewalled, and they finally said, we can't get anything unless you want to hire a lawyer and spend $50,000. You might get some of your records, but we can't help you. And so I said, okay, well, I did some research and I found an entire HMO. I've been with this HMO for almost 60 years.
Yeah.
And they had pulled this crap on me before. And, so finally I just said, I'm going to go with this other one. They're working real hard with several of their doctors and their administration to try and be totally transparent. Even though they get sued more often, they don't get sued for as much money, and the patients feel better and they give them some closure. And so I went with this. And then I went to have some trigger finger releases, which are 5-minute, very simple procedures. I said, well, you got to go into an operating room for that. I said, why?
For your index finger.
Yeah, well, my index, my right hand ring finger and the middle finger.
Okay. So
both at the same time.
Okay.
And they said, well, you got to have an operating room. I said, why? There are a lot of doctors doing this in their offices.
Mm-hmm.
Nope, we require it in the operating room. I said, okay, fine, I'll go in. And I said, well, what's that entail? Mm-hmm. Well, you have to strip down completely naked, put on a gown, do this, do that, and go in. And I said, no, right away I'm starting to have flashbacks.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And I said, for a hand operation, I said, give me a break. And the doctor said, well, some of these big organizations are hard to change. And I'm thinking, yeah, they don't change at all unless you make an effort, because I got no voice.
Right.
I'm just a patient.
Mm-hmm.
And so they scheduled it, and 2 weeks before it, I just said, to heck with this. I said, I'm not going to go through this.
Mm-hmm.
He said, well, you should just roll with it. I said, no, I'm not going to roll with it. I'm going to cancel it. That's what I'm going to do.
Right.
So I found 3 doctors now who will do it out of their office for a whole lot less money. The hospital wanted over $7,000.
Mm-hmm.
The doctor wanted $5,000. It's $12,000 for about 10 minutes worth of surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, I sure went into the wrong business when I went into electronics.
Well, so the moral of the story is, Jeannie Roller, listen to me. Let's go to these outpatient clinics and whatever, because listen to the stories that we're hearing. We heard it from Mary. We've heard it from another John and Lynn in Mississippi. How many have we heard? It goes on and on and on.
Yes,
I am not going to put up with this anymore. This has made me a better consumer, and I am going to the doctors who will do what I want,
right,
and what I need.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, you also risk them just doing what they want. That's with my husband. That's what they did. He told them what he would accept and what he would not accept. They said nothing, and then they did what they wanted.
Right, but you're talking, Jeannie, about a big box cutter that I'm calling them at a hospital,
yeah.
and so we're talking about switching now to these outpatient clinics and whatever, where the doctors actually have more say, because Mary was the one that said she went to the hospital and they said, yes, we're going to strip you naked, we're going to do all of this. And then the doctor said, oh, no, we're not going to do that, and kind of went along with it. And then she found out that when she went to the outpatient clinic that wasn't true, that doctor had more say-so. So we're finding all this stuff out, trying to educate people. We all met through Misty Roberts' Medical Patient Modesty website and Facebook, and Misty herself, and her website is patientmodesty.org. So if you need any information, go through there. I want to give her kudos because she is one of our patient partners. And we all consider ourselves patient partners because we're trying to help each other. We don't want to see this happen to anybody else.
Right. The stories on medical patient modesty really helped me realize that I'm not the only one in this boat.
Right.
And it just sort of gave me the courage to sort of move on and take control of things myself.
Mm-hmm. Right, and that's what you can do, Jeannie Roller. That's what you've done, and your husband's done. That other people that we've talked with, that's what I've done. Jeannie Roller, I keep forgetting you are on Twitter, and you are on Rights For with a numeral for patients on Twitter. If anyone wants to contact you there as well and get information, and we all try to post what we can and what we hear and things that are positive, because we don't want to wallow in this negativity. We know that this shouldn't have happened, and we know that we need to speak up about this because it is happening. We are not lying. They can falsify or evade or whatever they want to do, bring in their big lawyers, but we know at the end of the day we are telling the truth. So I'm going to say stay tuned. You are listening to Planet Vero Radio and Patient Partners.